911. What are you?
Whoa, 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 everybody. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's real vile time, babies. That's right. And it's the old G to the E to the R to the M. The T stands for the, but you already knew that. And we're about to rip it up in a modern way. So it's got to be Mr. Germ T. Ripper. And of course, we've got the boss man himself, the prime minister, the sinister, Mr. Ruthless Chris. Mr. Ruthless Chris, tell the people out there in real Violand what's really going on.
What's really going on is I'm really excited to talk to our guest today. Great guy.
Ooh la la, c'est la vie. Yes, we've got Matt Harding from Severin Films, Mr. Monster Matt Harding. It's going to be a great one, a great interview indeed. Killer Kelly Miller, she is the Tower of the Hour, the Princess of Power. What's going on with you, Killer Kelly Miller?
Not much. Hey, girls. Hey.
Hey, girls. Hey, indeed. Can't wait to get to that interview with Monster Matt Harding talking about Severin Films and all the wonderful things that they have to offer. But before I get to that, we're going to talk about some movies we've been watching. Hey, but before we do that, what have you guys been up to? Haven't seen you in about a week.
Well, I'm gearing up. We hit the road. By the time you guys hear this, Animosity will already have happened, but we hit the road for it tomorrow morning. So I've spent most of the day packing up T-shirts and merch. Kelly and I went to Detroit last night to pick up about 10 panes of glass so that some burly dudes can chuck each other through it. Mm-hmm. Aside from that, just really gearing up and getting ready for the show. It's always real hectic these couple days going into them. So hopefully by the time you hear this, I'm kicked back at home relaxing after a hopefully not so stressful weekend.
Very, very cool. Very exciting. Killer Kelly, you been up to anything different? Anything exciting?
No, not a whole lot. Like he said in the past week, just kind of laying low, knowing I'm going out of town this weekend, just doing that. We went to Detroit last night, stopped and grabbed the things he needed for the show this weekend. And then we took a wrong turn and ended up at this cool little hole in the wall dive bar with fucking amazing burgers. It's called the Bronx Bar, Detroit. If you're ever up there, I recommend it.
Yeah, they had burgers the size of hoagies, and they were on ciabatta bread. Mm-hmm. I've never had a burger on ciabatta, and I was like, I'm not sure if that's going to work. And boy, was it great.
It was great.
Go to the Bronx, get the burger.
Yeah. And then we ended up at the Temple Bar, which you've seen in The Detroiters, if you've ever watched that show. Met their bar cat. I don't remember his name. Darla. Darla was the bar cat. And then came home. That was basically the most exciting thing I did all week, other than watching some movies.
Well, talking about watching some movies, before we get to our interview with Monster Matt Harding from Severin Films, we're going to talk about some movies we've been watching. I'm going to start this off first, and I recently watched a movie that I was not thrilled with. It's brand new, streaming on Shudder. It is History of Evil, came out in 2024, directed by Bo Miroshvili, however you pronounce that name. Now, this movie is a family on the run from corrupt state takes refuge in a safe house with an evil past. This movie, it's shot beautifully. It's the top-notch acting, amazing, but the story itself comes across as pandering, to me at least, because the family, this corrupt state, is it's a right-wing dystopian future, which is fine. I have no problem with that, but they didn't lean into it. They didn't push it very hard. A movie like Red State or a movie like the Purge, or each Purge movie gets further and further into leaning into that right-wing. This really doesn't do a good job of that. And then there's very little gore. There's very little violence. There's very little bloodshed. It doesn't have much tension to it. And then the story, the ghosts, and what little bit of violence you do see is very reminiscent, for me at least, to The Shining. You know, the father of the family is by himself. He doesn't drink, but now he's drinking with the ghosts and he's slipping. You know, his mental health is slipping. I'm like, okay, I've seen this before. I've seen that before. I've seen everything that's inspired this film before, and I've seen it done much, much better. I give this movie 2 stars, but only because the acting is really well done and the cinematography is beautiful. Other than that, I cannot suggest it to anybody. Have you either of you seen History of Evil on Shudder yet?
I started watching it and then I fell asleep. And that says nothing. I fall asleep during a lot of movies because I have a tendency to put them on as I'm going to bed. So that says nothing about the movie, but it was kind of slow. And like, I got maybe about halfway through and I see what you're saying. It wasn't very much tension. It wasn't like the acting was good. The cinematography was good. And, I do feel like it was pandering a little bit, and I see what you're saying there with what I've seen so far. I went to go finish it, and I seen that you had watched it on Letterboxd, so I just assumed you were going to talk about it anyway. So I was like, I'll finish that one later because I wasn't that into it. But yeah.
No, I hadn't watched it. I almost did the other day. It has a great cover art. You know, it makes it look like it's going to be something pretty gnarly and sleazy, but I hadn't gotten around to it. And with what you guys have said, it's not piquing my interest. So probably not.
Yeah, besides the great cover art, I heard a lot of people buzzing about it on Twitter, and I was really excited to see it. It was one of the things that was keeping me from, you know, unsubscribing from Shudder, but that was the final nail in the coffin for me. If I go back to Shudder, I will be going back to it via AMC Plus, so that it's not just Shudder. But yeah, it was a stinker for me. 2 stars. I watched it, so you don't have to, in my opinion. But on that note, let's keep this train chugging along. And Ruthless Chris, what have you been watching, baby?
First one I'm going to talk about is a remake. I watched 2007's Wizard of Gore by Jeremy Kasdan. Stars Crispin Glover, who I always enjoy as an actor. But this it was kind of a little all over the place. Like it has a vibe where it's trying to feel like a noir. It's very bloody. They rely heavily on the fact that they got the Suicide Girls to be all in it. So there's just naked tattooed women everywhere. So, you know, cool for that. But it really tried to like put a lot of ideas into this movie, but I didn't feel it really like panned out very well towards the end. But I wasn't like bored at all, but also like it just kind of felt meh to me. So I didn't really love it. I was a big fan of the original, the Herschel Gordon Lewis one. That was something I had, really early on. I had like a little double thing with that and Blood Feast. I would recommend just watching the Herschel Gordon Lewis one. Crispin Glover makes this thing really worth watching. But aside from that, when he's not in it, it's not that great. Jeffrey Combs is in it, and they don't really do anything with him. And like they put like a giant beard on him and like a giant wig, and like he's a geek, so he's like biting the heads off of rats, but like he doesn't really have much lines, and he just feels kind of wasted in this. Like I really enjoy a Jeffrey Combs performance, and I think letting him ham it up and maybe having a couple monologues in this thing could have really put it over for me. But all in all, I thought it was a little boring. The gore's there and stuff, but 2 stars for me. I'll probably never watch it again. I watched it on Tubi. Or no, I watched it on Freevee. I don't know. They're all the same.
Fair enough. Killer Kelly, have you seen the newer Wizard of Gore from 2007?
I have not. I've seen it like suggested, but I haven't actually watched it.
Fair enough. I know that I talked about it earlier on this program on a previous episode. And yeah, I remember the first time I watched it, I didn't care for it at all, mainly because I am a huge Herschel Gordon Lewis fan. The second time I watched it, I did appreciate it more for the noir aspect and for Crispin Glover being, chewing up every scene he's in.
Yeah.
And I remember I gave it 3 stars for those aspects of it. And appreciate it for what it is, or don't watch it because you love the original so much. But either way, thanks for watching it, Chris, so that those out there in real Violand that love the original don't have to. Hey, Killer Kelly, what you got for us, baby?
The first movie I'm going to talk about is one out of 2020. It's an Australian movie called Relic. You can watch this on Shudder and AMC. Written and directed by Natalie Erica James. This movie is it's a slow burn. It was real artsy in the sense that there's a lot of like hidden meanings to like a bigger picture. Like it's definitely a symbolic thing for dementia. I'll get there. But anyway, Edna, she's an older lady. She's obviously getting dementia. Like, last time her daughter had seen her, she flooded her house. Like, shit's starting to get bad. And then they haven't heard from her for a few days. So they go see her and she's gone. She's out of her house. So, like, there's a big search in the neighborhood in the surrounding area. And she just shows back up. It's real creepy in that, like, creepy old lady sense. And you get this idea, like, there's something going on with the house. When really, I don't want, no, I'm not going to say that because that'll basically, the symbolism of the house and, like, this black mold that's going on is symbolic of the dementia that her mom has. It's kind of haunting in a way. It was a decent movie. Yeah, the ending is weird as fuck, but like I said, the whole thing is symbolic of dementia. It was okay. It was okay. The acting is really good. It's just really slow. I don't know that I'd watch it again. I gave it 3 stars. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet. Movies that have that sort of underlining subtext where you can tell that it's alluding to the deterioration of mental health or especially with older folks, I think it's called The Taking of Deborah.
Taking a Deborah Logan. I like that one's scarier as a horror movie to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing is an allegory for somebody dealing with Alzheimer's. And I thought that movie is brilliant.
It is.
But, you gave The Relic 3 stars and you said some things that definitely make me want to check it out. So, when I sign up for AMC Plus, I will definitely have to do that. Chris, have you seen
Shudder?
And Shudder. Chris, have you seen 2020's Relic?
I have not. No.
Well, all right. Well, let's keep that train chugging along so we can get to that interview with monster Matt Harding from Severin Films. And the next film I'm going to talk about, I've already talked about on this podcast, but I'm going to talk about it again and probably again because I seem to revisit this very disturbing, very bleak film at least once a year. This is 1983's Angst. This is a movie that will stick with you no matter how hardcore a horror fan you are. This is one of those movies that is above and beyond, and it's not for the squeamish. It's not for anybody who can't handle realistic violence. But if you haven't seen it, it's about a troubled man who gets released from prison and starts taking out his sadistic family's fantasies on an unsuspecting family living in a secluded house. Now, I watched this, at least twice before, but this time I watched the special features. And I'm glad I did because it gave me a whole better understanding of this film. There's very little dialogue in it. And most of the dialogue that is in it is just the main character narrating what's going on. And it's interesting because the original title of this film was actually Schizophrenia. And it's about the main character. He has these murderous impulses because he is suffering or living with schizophrenic tendencies, schizoaffective disorder, and it's not being taken care of. It's not treated. And, they don't talk about any of this really in the film. But when you get into the special features and you get to know what the original title was and how they've changed the title, multiple times for different countries it's played in, and see director Gaspar Noé talking about this film, and I'm a big fan of his, and this film was a huge inspiration of his. And if you're familiar with his films, all of his films are pretty disturbing. You'll understand that this is not for the faint of heart. This is for people who are into hardcore horror films, that are into movies that are going to stay with you for a while. Realistic horror, realistic violence. And it is demented and hard to watch at times. But at the same time, I think it's one of the greatest horror movies probably ever made, especially in the realm of realistic violence. I give it 4.5 stars. You can watch it on AMC Plus and to do Mubi to and Tubi. If you haven't seen Angst, I definitely highly suggest it for fans of hardcore horror, over the top, intense, realistic violence. And it's supposed to be based on a true story, so that also has another angle of realism to you. Chris, I know that you've seen Angst. You have anything to say about it?
Yeah, I've only seen this once. I did review it on the show before. This one, yeah, there's movies I watch and a week later I forget I even watched them. This one sticks with me. I remember everything that fucking happened in this movie. It is definitely not for the faint of heart. It's for the more hardcore, the people that would watch your Last House on Dead End Street or your August Undergrounds or your that kind of shit. It's very disturbing. It's very linear. You're just following one character, and I think it takes place all in one day. And yeah, I mean, this one's a pretty fucked up movie. In a good way. It's just one of those ones that I would suggest watching on a day where you really want to see something hardcore. This isn't a light viewing. With that being said, I highly recommend it. In fact, you brought up Gaspar Noé. That's the reason I watched it. I read an interview with him is that whenever he makes a movie, he makes his cast and crew all watch it. So that they understand, kind of tonality, what he's going for overall feel wise in his movies. So that made me curious and I checked it out, and yeah, it's fucked up movie, but I highly recommend it. I gave it 4.5 as well.
Kelly, have you seen Angst?
No, I have not. Topics that deal with schizophrenia kind of hit me in a personal spot, like family, So like I really got to be in the mood to deal with that topic personally, and that's just one I haven't seen.
Totally understandable. I probably wouldn't suggest it for you then. But let's keep this train chugging along so that we can get to Monster Matt Harding of Severin Films. Ruthless Chris, what have you got for us next, baby?
The next one I came across, like this thing was so up my alley. I loved it, and it's one of those things where, when I looked up reviews of it and then like looked it up on Letterboxd, they're like, no one's really seen this thing. And this is 1992's Heartland of Darkness by Eric Swelsted. This thing, it's a no budget movie. It was made in the middle of Ohio, where I'm from, or near where I'm from. But this kind of like has a feel like something maybe that would be like something that Tempe Films or J.R. Bookwalter associated. It's a lot of heart without a lot of money. Very, very gory. Very cool concept. What you have is a big city reporter goes to a small town in Ohio to kind of take over their little like newspaper because he wanted to get away from dealing with like major crimes and all that. And then people start showing up mutilated in this small town. And he comes to find this, I'm not really ruining it because he come to find this pretty quick, that the church, the priest, and his flock are actually evil and are harvesting and, murdering people. This thing is definitely a product of its time. It's very gnarly. There's some bad acting, but in a fun way. A lot of muscle men in sunglasses with mullets. A lot of fun, like religious, like iconography. I can't even talk. Iconography. In a very blasphemous way. Like the main baddie is, he dresses and is referred to as a priest the entire time, but he is definitely very evil and leading a cult. All in all, I really had a fucking blast with this thing. I recommend it highly. Some of the special effects they pulled off were very impressive for how little money you could tell they have. The guy who starred in it, I thought was actually really good at being like the grizzled reporter with the 5 o'clock shadow, you know, like just trying to get down to the bottom of the scoop. Yeah, this thing was great. I really enjoyed it. It blew by. It was like 84 minutes or something like that. And it was one of those ones where I didn't check my phone once. Like I was just having a blast with it. Like movies like this are like my bread and butter. So if you like stuff like, you know, Dead Next Door, or like Bloodletting, things like that, Polymorph, definitely fucking check this thing out. Heartland of Darkness. I watched it, I believe, on Tubi. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's what my background is right now.
Yeah, I looked it up while you were talking to see that that is your background. Yeah, everything you said sounded like something I want to check out. But you know, just like you said, nobody's reviewed it. Nobody's put their star rating on Letterboxd about this movie. So thank you for bringing it to light. Heartland of Darkness on Tubi. How many stars did you give this bad boy?
You know, originally, I after getting done watching, I gave it 3, but I'm gonna bump it up. I'm going to give it 3.5. I think this is a great film. I actually, after watching it, I found a boutique label that had a Blu-ray of it, and I ordered one. Also, Linnea Quigley's the co-star of this thing, which was cool. So, yeah. And it was like prime Linnea Quigley, 1992. So, yeah, good shit.
Very, very cool. Killer Kelly, have you seen Heartland of Darkness?
I don't believe I have. No.
Nice. Well,
what's it streaming
both
on
of
again?
us have to check it out.
Tubi,
Of
okay.
course.
Tubi, of course.
Of course.
Sponsor us,
before
Tubi.
Before we get to Monster Matt, Killer Kelly, what have you got for us next?
This was suggested to me while I was watching YouTube, and I was like, fuck it, why not? This is 2002 made for TV version of Carrie. Yeah, this stars directed by David Carson. The only thing it seems like he's ever really directed other than this is a bunch of like TV series like Smallville, and there was a couple other ones. But it stars Angela Bettis as Carrie. Fucking Catherine Isabel is one of like the bullies in the school. Catherine Isabel's in this. Patricia Clarkson, she plays Carrie's mom. I don't remember. I know her face. I'm trying to think of what else she was in, but you'd know her face too. She's been in other horror movies. Yeah, I mean, it's basically a more modern at the millennium, to 2002 version of Carrie. Like she's aware that she has telekinesis and she's looking it up on the internet. So like she's fully aware of what's going on. But I thought this was really decent. The only thing that kind of hinders it is you can tell it was really low budget. The production looks like it was a made for TV movie, But fuck, I think if I would have seen it back then, like me and Chris talked about this the other day, I was like, dude, I actually really liked it. Like, it doesn't like hold a candle to the original Carrie, but it's great. Angela Bettis plays a perfect fucking Carrie, honestly. I think she nailed that role. And Catherine Isabel's great in everything she does. But yeah, she's super young in this, though. This had to be like a year after May. So it was right around that time. I don't know. I'd recommend it. You can find it on Pluto, Roku, and YouTube. I think I liked it more. Well, I'm gonna have to rewatch the newer remake with Chloe Moretz. Right? That's her name. That's how you say her last name, right?
Yeah.
Moretz. Yes. Chloe Moretz. I remember when I watched that one, I didn't like it, and that was when it just came out. So I feel like I should give it a rewatch, because I think if I would have watched this when it first came out, I wouldn't have liked it either. I think enough time has passed for me to like, especially knowing who Angela Bettis is now after May, and Catherine Isabel with Ginger Snaps and Hannibal and American Mary and everything. But yeah, it gives me, it makes me appreciate it a little more just on that. Have either of you seen this version?
I have not seen this one, but after you talked about the cast and how great, you said you really liked it. I think if you keep in mind the time frame that came out, and it sounds like an enjoyable watch. I'm gonna have to check it out. What was the star rating you gave this one?
I give it a 3. I mean,
3?
It ain't no original Carrie. I recently talked about the Rage Carrie 2. I don't know. I'd say this might be on par with that, although the production's not there, with it being the made for TV and the time. But it was It was a fun watch, you know?
Fair
Definitely
enough.
watchable.
Chris, have you seen this one?
No, but we talked about it on the way up to Detroit at great lengths, and
Mhm.
it's one of those things where at the time I probably would have hated it too, but I am
Mhm.
realizing, with enough time going by, you could go back and enjoy these movies as cheese.
Yeah.
I'm finding that early 2000s movies are kind of hitting me in the same spot now, where like feeling wise, like when I watch an 80s movie, where like the special effects are weird because they're in like a weird transitional period, and like styles weird and like music's all these like goofy. It's like new metal soundtracks and like all kinds of goofy shit to laugh at. So I'm having like a nice little fun resurrection of like early 2000s horror, getting like a new appreciation for it. I think
Yeah.
that movie Venom we came across, what really set that off. That movie was so much fucking fun. Not the Tom Hardy Spider-Man thing, the Bayou serial killer demon thing.
A year
But
later,
no,
and
I
you're
haven't I
still
haven't seen it.
talking
I'll check
about
it out.
fucking
Yeah, Venom
Venom.
was great. Fuck Venom. I loved Venom.
Well, it sounds like we definitely have to check out that Carrie remake. But before we get to Monster Matt Harding of Severin Films, we've got one last round to go through, and I'm going to kick off this last round. And I'm going to talk about a movie that even I don't really consider a horror movie at all, although the scenes in it are very horrific. They will stick with you. It is a movie that is not for the squeamish. It's very realistic, and it is hard to watch. This is most people would probably consider it a horror movie if they know anything about addiction or drug use. This is 2000's Requiem for a Dream by
Oh,
Darren
fuck.
Aronofsky. I hadn't watched this since it originally came out, but if you don't know what this movie is about, it is the drug-induced utopias of four Coney Island people are shattered with their addictions run deep. And now that is a synopsis that doesn't really cover the madness, the torment, the progressive nature of addiction, how it goes from like you're a little bit of escapism to destroying your entire life. And this movie, I think if anybody is at the beginning stages of drug use, if you see this movie, if you see Requiem for a Dream, you might stop doing drugs because you will see a very realistic take on the dark rabbit hole that addiction will take you through. It is hard to watch, but man, oh man, similar to the last movie I talked about, it is an amazing film. The cast is top notch. Ellen Burstyn, Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, Marlon Wayans, Christopher McDonald, and the list just goes on and on of amazing character actors, amazing actors that you're like, oh, I know that person. This cat, it's just so mind blowing. And you will see scenes in this movie that you don't ever want to see again. But I'm I punish my own mental health sometimes by rewatching these crazy movies. Yeah, it's hard to call Requiem for a Dream a horror movie, but it is definitely horrific. And if you have um, any drug abuse or addiction issues or mental health issues, you will be able to identify with these characters because I know that I did, and I know plenty of people either can themselves or can through having friends or family that have been through this because addiction touches everybody's lives. I gave this 4.5 stars, and it's streaming on Pluto, Peacock, Tribeca Shortlist, and you can rent it on Prime Video. But it's an excellent film. 4.5 stars from me. I'm guessing you've both probably seen Requiem for a Dream. Chris, what are your thoughts on it?
I would consider this a non-traditional horror movie because if you're not fucking horrified by the end of this, especially like the climax, then you got no fucking soul. I mean, like this thing gets harrowing. Like, like the way he describes, it is about like substance abuse, but it takes it down to like the darkest, deepest holes of it, and like how bad it truly can get. And, it's also made by a filmmaker, like a wonderful filmmaker at the height of his power. You know, this was Darren Aronofsky, and it was before, you know, like he kind of started doing some hit and miss stuff. Like this is like right after Pie, you know, and you know, a lot of people argue if that's a horror movie. I think Pie is 100% a horror movie.
I love that movie.
But yeah, couldn't recommend it enough. But this is one also like ANGST that will fuck your night up. But with that being said, it also is made with like a craftsmanship that is unparalleled, and it is a wonderful film, but very dark and very haunting. So I would recommend it. That one's 4.5 for me all day. I've watched it dozens of times. And what's really interesting about it is that it's distinct, very distinct, different stories and how people are affected by it. You know, like you got the two junkies that are on the heroin, but then you have the old lady with a dream, and she gets on diet pills and speed and starts starving herself, and all this stuff in between, and like what these people have to do to start trying to maintain what they have is like it really it's a gut punch. So yeah, I'd recommend it, but it's gonna fuck your night up.
Kelly, have you seen Requiem for a Dream?
Absolutely. Yeah, this one is haunting as fuck. This one will stick with you. Yeah, I first seen it probably in my late teens, and it has stuck with me forever. I've struggled with addiction problems and during that time I couldn't watch this movie, like you said, because I seen it prior to all that, and then like during all that it was just one of those movies like, nope, I won't watch that right now. But now that I'm past all that, I feel like I could again, but at the same time it would still be like a gut-wrenching fucking watch, especially after, you know, losing so many people and knowing so many people that dealt through all this. Yeah, that one, 4.5, if not 5. It's a fucking cinematic masterpiece. Absolutely.
Very cool.
Borderline horror. It's not horror, but it so fucking is.
Horror of the soul is what I would call it.
Yeah.
That is a good way to describe it. Perfect way to describe it. Horror of the soul. Well, let's get back onto a lighter track before we get Mr. Monster Matt Harding of Severin Films on here, and we'll talk about 2 more movies that you guys have been watching. Ruthless Chris, what you got for us, baby?
This is a brand new movie, and I'll tell you what, it knocked my fucking socks off. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. Especially the type of movie it is. This is called Resurrected, 2023 by Igor Baranov. It's told all through computer screens, like Unfriended or Megan's Missing, or, you know, stuff like that. It is a religious horror, and it goes fucking hard. Like, I didn't expect it to go as hard as it does. But what you have is the Vatican. How it starts is there is a father who has been drinking and driving with his young son, and they get in a car accident. His son dies. The Vatican comes out with this new technology where they can start resurrecting people they feel deemed worthy. And it starts off being this controversy. And this son is the first person that's resurrected. And the parents obviously divorced because the mother is very upset that he was drunk driving. When the accident happens, they're FaceTiming each other. So the mom actually watches it happen in real time. And it's very harrowing because the son is holding the phone and ends up being ejected from the car. And you see all this shit. It's wild. And then the father becomes this priest. And he is a priest that helps people that are newly resurrected because it becomes now a service to the public. That if they feel that you're deemed worthy, that they will resurrect you. And he is kind of helping these people, like, you know, that have been resurrected, keeping an eye on them for the church, stuff like that. And to be deemed resurrected, there's these hackers that go into your life called cherubs. I'm going a little deep into this, but there's so much going on in this movie. There's so many really cool ideals, but it start out of nowhere. One of the people that he is helping murders like 17 people. And then it starts this public outcry, like, you know, is this because they're a resurrected person? Yada, yada, yada. And then he gets suspended from the church and teams up with one of these cherubs, and they start trying to uncover what's really going on, which turns out to be a much huger, larger thing. I'm not normally this into those like on a computer screen style horror movies where it's windows and there's typing, a lot of stuff going on. I thought it was really effective in this. It really kept me engaged. I really loved this movie. I can't believe that not more people are talking about it. I think once people start finding it, it's going to be an instant cult classic. I gave it 4 stars, and I plan on probably watching it one more time to kind of get all the nuances and stuff that's going on. And I will say this: you won't think so in the beginning, but it does go real hard towards the end. Like, it gets very gory. It gets very fucked up in the church kind of things and all kinds of stuff. Like, it's not a light watch, but it's a lot of fun, and it's real dark. So that's Resurrected, 2003 on Tubi.
All right. Well, I haven't heard of it, but now that you've talked about it and given it 4 stars, I definitely want to check it out. Kelly, have you seen The Resurrected?
Did you say 2003 or 23?
2023.
Oh,
it's just Resurrected.
Yeah.
The Resurrected is a different movie.
This was on my list of movies to watch last year, but I haven't yet. So now I'm going to.
I think it would have made my top 10 list had I watched it last year. I really enjoyed it. I was knocked. And the worst part is I had to watch it in 2 sittings. I was watching the first half, and then we ended up leaving to Detroit to go get the glass. And then today when I got off work, I watched the second half, and man, I was floored.
Well, very cool. The Resurrected on Tubi, 4 stars from Chris, and the rest of us definitely have to check that one out. And streaming on Tubi, you've got no reason not to check it out yourselves out there in real Violent. Well, we've got one more movie from Killer Kelly Miller to talk about before we get to our big interview with Monster Matt Harding from Severin. Hey, Killer Kelly Miller. Hey, Killer Kelly Miller. What you got for us, baby?
This time I went with an anthology. I was a fan of this when it first came out in 2017. This is XX, the one that's directed by all women directors. You have Roxanne Benjamin, who did a segment on Southbound, Body at Brighton Lake, which I actually watched that. I don't think I talked about it yet, but There's Something Wrong with the Children. It's got Sophia Carrillo, Karen Kusama. But yeah, I said that right. I can't read my own writing. I'm sorry. That's the problem. Like, is that a weird But yeah, she did The Invitation, a couple episodes of Yellow Jackets, Jennifer's Body, Aeon Flux. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Like I said, this is the first time I watched it since it came out, and I think I enjoyed it just as much this time as I did the first time. The first story, it kind of follows a family where there's a little boy. Somebody on a bus shows him inside of a box and just makes him stop eating. This kind of reads like, this one feels like an It Follows sort of story. Like, because like whatever ails him, kind of he passes throughout the rest of the family. And then the other episode, Birthday Party, this was more of a horror comedy. It stars Melanie Linsky, which you know her from Yellow Jackets. She's the girl, fuck, I don't remember her name, the darker haired kind of, heavier lady. Yeah, anyway, that one's funny. It's kind of got like a Weekend at Bernie's vibe. The third one kind of goes into like a creature slasher elements, has like vibes of like Evil Dead or something like that. Follows a bunch of hipsters going camping in a wooded area. That one's really fun. And the last one, Her Only Living Son. It had vibes of like, we need to talk about Kevin. That one reminded me. I think this one might have been the best of the bunch. But yeah, I highly recommend this. You can watch it on Hulu, Plex, Pluto, Roku, Tubi. You can find it just about anywhere. If you're in, short attention span, that's why I like anthologies sometimes, short stories. The only thing I think could have made this better, I think the movie, the segments didn't really, there was nothing really connecting the stories. And I think that would have been a cool aspect. I like it when they do that in certain anthologies. I would like to see a part 2 of this with different female directors. I think that would be cool. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, I saw it like before it was released when I was in Cody, the illegal downloading service, and I think similar to Bad Biology. When I watched it, it was kind of grainy, so and I don't think I got to fully appreciate it. And if I remember correctly, the stories were a little uneven, and like you said, there's
Mm-hmm.
no wraparound story, so it
No.
loses that cohesiveness. But from what I remember, I would still give it 3 stars. You know, I love anthology movies, and an anthology movie with all female horror directors is something
Mm-hmm.
special. So yeah, I give it 3 stars. Chris, have you seen XX?
I have, but I'm struggling to remember it. I watched it like when it first came out, and that was like a
Yeah.
long time ago. And I don't really remember much about it, so I think it would be I shouldn't really talk on it. I don't really have a informed opinion on this one, but I have seen it.
Fair enough. Well, XX, if you want to check out an anthology film by female horror directors, it's definitely worth a watch, and it seems like it's streaming everywhere. Uh, but on that note, let's get to our big interview with Monster Matt Harding from Severin Films, shall we?
And now for our feature presentation.
Whoa, 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 we're back and we're badder than ever. And we're here with our wonderful guest here in Real Violand with Matt Harding from Severin Films, aka Mr. Monster Matt. Monster Matt, for the people out there in Real Violand, could you give them a little lowdown, a little hoedown about what it is to be Mr. Matt Harding, aka Monster Matt for Severin Films?
Jerm, first of all, if I wasn't feeling alive, you pumped me up, bro. You got me going. Yeah, I could have used that on Tuesday, but I'm glad I'm getting it on Thursday. So thank you for that introduction. Thank you for having me. Matt Harding is the name, Monster Matt. That's when I do some wrestling stuff, which we all love. Uh, Worked for Seven Films for about the last 10 years. I am a regional warrior was the title I was given. So I do conventions, pop-ups, movie theater screenings, and then try and get product into people's hands. So that's my position.
Well, Mr. Matt Harding, you've done a heck of a job over the years because I think specifically because of you, I've bought in several, I'll say tens of 20s of 30s, Severin Films on DVD and Blu-ray and 4K UHD. I've made specific trips just to see you at pop-ups. I didn't care about the movie that was playing. I came to see you and buy some movies from you. So you're doing a heck of a job there, buddy.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So
I
you
was gonna
say that you've been doing this about 10 years. How did you get involved with Severin Films?
So Severin Films was a boutique company built up off of Blue Underground and Anchor Bay. David Gregory and Carl Draft were good buddies in United Kingdom, and they got the idea that they wanted to put out the movies that were banned, the video nasties. So through MPI, knowing some people and knowing some Dark Sky stuff from working in Suncoast Video, when that was going more the way of DVDs, get rid of VHS. I was able to meet all those folks, and then they started wanting to do conventions. So doing the conventions and getting the product into people's hands, and then the boutique labels kind of blew up a little bit more, especially since the releases were coming out in such a good formats and ways to view them and the special features. So just asked to do more, and I'm like, always busy. I like to work. It's fun. It's like work, but it's still fun. And you get to talk about your obsessions with people and what you guys, can relate on and things like that. I mean, we're all like-minded people, so we get collecting, we get addictive personalities, we get fixations. So for me, it's one of the best things that I can do with my spare time, I think. So that's a long about way of just saying that I got involved because I knew people. I mean, I think that's pretty much how to explain that. But
Well,
Hey, the longer the answer, the better.
okay, cool.
Right.
All right, yeah, I can be long-winded if I need to be. So
I think like with almost any business, it's all in who you know and how you get in there. You know, I mean, especially stuff in entertainment, things like that. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
us with the wrestling and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of it's
Mhm.
always with who you know. You know,
Yeah, like we've got career day that comes to our school, and like the eighth graders get a chance to see people that have, done careers about there, like around the area and things like that. And the one that's always one of the most like well attended is like the barbers, because the kids are so fixated like now on like appearance and looks, especially like middle school. So they're always talking about the way the hair is and things like that, and they love hearing that. And then they know somebody in the community that when they get older, they've already been introduced to them. So it works in the educational world just like it does in a business world, just like it works in a counterculture world. Like it's who you know is important, and friendships and creating bonds is very important.
yeah, 100%,
Yeah, especially with such like a niche market is like, of the stuff that Severin has, it's such like a niche market. Like you're gonna run into there's gonna be a lot of the same people like bringing you together.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you can get together and talk about obscure movies or movies that nobody's heard of or recommendations, you create a bond too. Like, oh, hey man, you recommended that movie to me, and it was a stinker. Like PU, like why did you do that? And I'll say, well, but you got a chance to see it. You got to see it in all its glory. It can still be memorialized as physical media. You can take it down, look at it. Enjoy it, trade it with your friends. Some of us from the VHS days or trading tape days, we didn't have that. We had real bad copies of it, and Severin is real gung ho about getting the best kind of quality out there to the best of the ability that they have.
that is one thing I enjoy about Severin. I grew up a VHS collector, and a lot of the stuff, especially stuff like Severin puts out, is the kind of stuff that you'd almost have to get like a secondhand bootleg of back in the VHS days off eBay, and you would never know the quality of it or anything. And one of the great things I think you guys do is always, try to restore it, as great as possible, and try to dig up some special features maybe someone hasn't seen, maybe track some people down, get some interviews, and it always makes it much more exciting. Like it's according to like vinyl or something, like there's one thing to like just having the music on your phone, but like having like the big packaging and the liner notes, and like have something tangible you can kind of like fully interact with and fully enjoy. I think it's a lot more for especially people that are in like counterculture like we are, like stuff people that enjoy like the films of Severin and stuff are it brings us all together. There's no like real like factioning in that.
Yeah, and that's you hit it pretty much right on the head with it. Maybe with a light tube, you hit it on the head with a light tube there. It's really a thing when it comes to preservation, as opposed to making yourself rich off of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's money to be had in it, and it's a business, but the people who are in it enjoy that because they had not even second generation copies of VHS, fifth or sixth generation copies of VHS, where it was so grainy, grim, dark. The colors weren't right, the sound was off, but you watched it because that's what you had. And now that it's preserved, you can watch it in a whole different format, and then you get the collector bug, and it's tangible, and you can hold it. It's good on a shelf. So I mean, what a neat thing to like kind of celebrate, and a neat thing to be obsessed with, is all the stuff that goes into what makes a movie, and all the stuff that goes into making special features or commentary or the artwork for the Blu-ray, or finding old posters to put like, together when you have a screening of it. That just brings back a lot of stuff for people who may have experienced it in the theater, or people who may experience it like at a rental, or may have experienced it because their friend said, hey, you got to see this. This movie is messed up. You got to see this, and then like, wait, that's what we were seeing? It was, I think Kitley, John Kitley from Discover the Horror podcast, Kitley's Crypt, he talks about that too, just the other day when on his podcast about like black and white movies, and then experiencing black and white movies in like a 4K and stuff, because you see the way that it was supposed to be seen when they were filming it. You see the format of it, and you see everything, So yeah, for sure.
I also think
Yeah,
one
you
of
guys
the
are
important
like-
things. Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
I was gonna say, you guys are just like breathing new life into these like forgotten films that, like I haven't thought about that movie since I was like 12, And yeah, it's nice. Like you said, they're all like grainy and shit. All the times we've seen them like recorded over and over and over. But yeah, thank you
And
for doing that.
one of the things that I think is important too, with the physical media is we're getting to the era with streaming to where we lose movies. There's movies you just can't watch. And I think it is important for boutique labels to find these movies, give them the treatment they deserve, and make sure that people can still have them available to watch. And I really think that's important because I was reading an article the other day. It's like here's a bunch of movies that you just can't watch anywhere or buy. And it's really sad. Some of those titles where it's just like they just are lost to obscurity forever, unless someone like you guys or come along, or another boutique label is just like, no, let's make sure people can see this and get it out there again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when people say like physical media is going to go away, a lot of people argue, well, it's only when the players stop being made, and collectors are going to stockpile some stuff when they start hearing stuff like that, because they're it's like record players, and they say record players are going to go out. True vinyl collectors have 3 or 4 record players. True VHS heads and tape heads have 5 or 6 VCRs, just in case anything goes wrong. So streaming is not a bad thing per se. It can open some people's mind to what's out there, and then they are into the movie, so they want to go out and learn as much as they can about it. And that's where the special features come in, and that's where the people can feed their obsessions and keep feeding that desire to learn more about stuff.
Well, not only that, when they find something they do love, they can go get that physical media of it, and it will be a better representation of it, because it's not going to be the squashed down streaming version. It's going to be the fully restored that you can't really get on the streaming.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the streaming, it depends on what contract they get with the streaming services of which version of the movie they would play. Usually it'd be just the theatrical releases would be played. So like horror lovers who want to see a director's cut, or want to see something with extended footage, or some stuff that was taken out, that you can see that because you have both versions on the disc. So painstakingly, all the quality control that goes into it and all that stuff I don't do, but I can appreciate it. I know, I've seen it. I've been around people who do it. One of my really, really good friends, Todd, who loves your promotion too. He'll be there on Saturday. He comes too. He does quality control for us.
Oh, awesome. Introduce me.
Yeah. So I'll introduce you for sure. But I know what it is, and what it has to go through to get in there, so I can appreciate it. It's almost like musicians, I've always admired musicians, never been able to play, never been able to sing, but I admire that, so it's like I can admire. I don't know if I would be able to do quality control or go through and understand the aspects of how that film stuff works, because I think that's not where my appreciation for the film and movies lies. But someday maybe it'd be nice to work on one.
I love how you mentioned like special features too, because there are times when I've watched a movie on streaming services and I wanted to learn more about it. So I bought the physical copy and was able to enjoy the special features. And Severin always loads these releases up with as many special features as possible. And thick booklets, I mean, it's really amazing the things that Severin is doing. There's been times on the show when I'll talk about a movie, and then I go to look to see where it's streaming, and I'll be like, I'm sorry, folks, but it's not streaming anywhere, but you should buy a physical copy of this because it's worth it. Just the last episode we had, I was talking about Bad Biology, which the only other time I'd ever seen it was on the illegal streaming service Kodi, and it was a grainy copy. It was a horrible bootleg, and I was like, oh, well, I don't really like this film, but I'm going to buy it anyway because it's a Frank Henenlotter. Well, I bought it from you. It's a 4K restoration. It's got a huge, beautiful booklet, and I had a whole new appreciation for it watching it in my theater in my basement. Now, so I feel like the work that Severin is doing is the work that fans fully appreciate. Out of all of Severin's releases, what are some of your favorite ones, would you say?
Oh, wow. Wow.
You're asking him to pick a favorite child.
Yeah. Oh shoot. I grew up really liking Rubber Suit Monsters and Kaiju, and my horror was a little bit different. What I grew up with that Severin release, but when I first started seeing Severin titles, like things like Burning Moon was a life changer. Shot on video, German. I mean, the depiction of hell in the final couple sequence. I mean, that stuff stuck with me, and I realized, I said, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "This will always be top." Because when I saw it and kind of the trauma that it caused me, and like just kind of always being irritated by that movie, and then now I'm working behind a table that's selling that movie, so that one's always got a special place for me. I like Horrors of Party Beach. That's fun. Great music, great soundtrack. Kathy's Curse is always one that I'm always up and talking about constantly. I love that. Anything with kind of kids that are murderous in a way that doesn't involve like stuff that are killer kids now. Like this is the killer kids then. I don't know, but like Nightmare in a Damaged Brain, just for the issues that it had in the United Kingdom when it was banned and how they had to cut scenes out. But I think one that always will be top with me is Burial Ground. Just put out a 4K restoration of something, that's had 12 different releases, because it's such a movie that will just attack you and stays with you. You've got zombies, killer man-child looking thing. You got tit ripping. You've got castle-like atmosphere. I mean, everything's in there, great movie. Some of the forgotten Fulci titles I really love. Devil's Honey, the sexploitation.
Oh God!
You ever look at a saxophone the same way or nail polish the same way ever again? Yeah,
and Pondo gave me his copy of that because it was too weird for him.
I mean, that's great. I love stuff like that. Like, no, that's too weird. Like, I don't even want to own it anymore.
I loved it.
Like, somebody else, yeah. Like that hit person. That hit that person in just the like right way or wrong way. Absolutely. So, I mean, that's a hard question, Jeremy. It's a great question. It's one I get often. But it's real hard to answer. It's like, what's my favorite black shirt? Like I've got many of them. Some fit me just right. Some hug my neck a little bit. Some are, smell a little smoky. Some smell clean, Each one of them has something nice. So
it's a great analogy.
Fair enough.
To Bad Biology, I actually have a copy on the way, and I'm very excited to have it because I have the original grainy, shitty DVD. Who actually had R.A. the Rugged Man signed when I saw him live, and he was utterly shocked I had it with him.
Nice.
He's like, "Holy shit, people own this!"
Yeah. The thing about that too is this is great. It's getting Frank Henlotter's doing little tours with it, because of putting it out and having it shown theatrically, and he gets an opportunity to reconnect with people who did the artwork for like Mike Diana and some of the characters and stuff like that. So that's another like humanity issue when it comes to this stuff, is like bringing people back together, or people getting a chance to like revisit something that may have started to go the way of oh yeah, well I saw it once but it's not available, or things like that. Now it's like, yeah, there is a 4K version, there's a regular Blu-ray version, there's one with a collector's case, there's one with just a regular case. I mean, you've got your options. So like, what a time to be alive. We can appreciate it because we're nerdy, we're geeky. Like we can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe some normies don't. They don't get it. They don't get that sense.
Speaking of Henenlotter, I just have to throw that out there that he is my all-time favorite. Like that is like my go-to sensibility. And even when I start, like maybe I start talking to a new woman, or maybe we start hanging out, it will be one of the first movies I show them as the litmus test will be Frankenhooker, to see if if this is gonna go anywhere or not.
Just to see what happens. Yeah.
It's like we'll see how this lands with you, and if we're going to go through with this or not.
Yeah, hightails it out of there and burns rubber on out. Yeah, then I guess some basket case is not on the list for the next date.
I usually can tell by the time the lawnmower fires up or the lawnmower scene's done if they're a keeper or not. If they're laughing or not, it's like okay, you can stay.
Yeah, I saw something about lawnmower scenes. God, I think it was on Shudder or something. It was like 101 scariest moments or something. I don't know. I don't stream Shudder, but if it was at a friend's house, they're talking about lawnmower scenes. I'm like, man, the lawnmower scene that really stuck with me was always Dead Alive. When he comes in because of the lawnmower, and I can't remember the name of the movie because it's more modern. But there's a lawnmower. So the guy has to watch somebody's head get cut off. I can't think of the movie. Sinister?
Yeah, Sinister, where they buried the people in the lawn and then they
yes,
that
was it. And I was like, I've never seen this because I was kind of like, well, it's new stuff. I don't want to see any new stuff. There's so much old stuff that I can watch. And then I was like, that seems scary. Like that seems very, very scary. So I have it on my list. Like I need to visit this movie.
Sinister is actually a very good watch, man. I actually would recommend it. It doesn't pull any punches. It's pretty gnarly, especially for.
I remember liking that one.
Yeah. I like that about having a movie that you would put in to kind of test somebody's limits. Like I like that. I like that. I mean, because Henenlotter, and especially Henenlotter, he's got such a great filmography when it comes to the movies that he's made or he's been involved in. Basket Case and Brain Damage and Frankenhooker.
Brain Damage is another.
Yeah, and then Bad Biology is like just like. F it all. Let's just do everything and make it sexual, like super sexual. Mm-hmm. You know, like let's do it. And he did it. And I'm glad that it's out there.
Yeah, ironically enough, the other guy that made it with him is one of Kelly and I's favorite rappers. Like, yeah. When I found, I was like, wait, it's Ari the Rugged Man and Henenlotter? Fuck yeah! And he's actually like a huge film buff. If you've ever seen his collection, it is utterly insane. It is floor to ceiling.
What's that movie that he's making? You said it last week, I thought. He's
Violence
trying
Disco,
to get one.
I believe he's trying to
fund something
right
disco. Yeah, something disco.
It's Violence Disco. He's crowdfunding a movie right now.
All right, yeah.
But it's interesting, Matt, that you mentioned Forgotten Films of Fulci, because our last episode, the main feature of our episode was The Psychic, which is a mainly forgotten film. I had only remembered it because the artwork stuck with me since I was a child. I remember passing by it every time, but never watched it. Now, it was that artwork that made me purchase it from you last time I saw you. And is there any Fulci movies out there left that Severin hasn't put out, hasn't brought to the eyes of the fans, you think?
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot. Severin is always going through titles, throwing titles out that they want. Whether they're looking at getting bundles and package deals when they purchase the rights to it. I've for years kept always saying, let's go for some of Fulci's kid movies, like The White Fang is fantastic, and he's a proper like beautiful movie. So yeah. Yes and no. Like right now, there's a kind of a big push right now with some of the other Italian cinema with like the Danza Macabre sets and things like that. And then they were kind of taking a break with pushing out all the bigger box sets. So the films of Bruce Lee, like the clones of Bruce Lee stuff. There's gonna be some box sets coming out of that. That'd be pretty massive. That'll be very sick because we've been talking about that for a long time, which is cool. And then I'm trying to get at the Wilmette Theater, Jerem, if up north there of Chicago, in June, talking with Oscar Bate Podcasts and talking with the guy who does some of the marketing at Wilmette, trying to get some Fulci titles up there in June. Nice. Yeah, The Psychic definitely being one of them. And then try maybe to get a special guest based on the connections with people who've been in that movie, by way of marriage. So at least getting them in there would be nice. But as far as releases right now, there's nothing Fulci that is coming out. But we had a DVD collection that had some stuff on there that I think we still may be interested in putting out. So yeah. Fulci's he's amazing. I don't know if I'm sure your listeners know Fulci, and know like some of the main Fulci, but get into anything Fulci. I mean, it's just amazing, just visually stunning, and the soundtracks are usually pretty killer.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a blast. All those movies are a blast, in my opinion.
Very, very cool. Yeah, had no idea that he had ever made a kids movie called White Fang. And on that note, though, Severin's Kids sub-label, I guess you would call it, something like that.
Yeah.
Some of the movies on the Severin Kids label are some of my favorite movies that Severin has put out. They're not gory, they're not over the top, but they are bizarre and they're whimsical. And I love whimsy in my movies. Now, how did Severin think of putting out a kids label?
So Severin Kids, kind of a brainchild of us having kids and going around conventions and like kind of seeing like their interest in horror and like kind of their interest in the obscure and kind of seeing what interests they had, and then thinking about movies that kind of borderline scary or, like you said, whimsical, because whimsical is scary. It can be frightening. Anything that's off-putting or now would seem like, wow, that's weird to have in a kids movie, is stuff that we kind of we're looking for. So it's always good to see that people enjoy Severin Kids stuff, because it's kind of a gamble. We're putting out kids movies, for our audience, and then we're putting out adult movies, so it's like, well, you have your kids watch this movie and you go watch your movie, type thing.
I always think it's important to have that gateway horror kind of, for kids, because I know for me, I wouldn't be the man I am today if it wasn't for Monster Squad when I was very young.
For sure.
I watched Monster Squad and I got really into it. I kept making my parents rent it for me, but then my dad sat me down and he was like, well, now you got to watch the stuff that it's parodying, so then I got to see, the Bela Lugosi stuff and all the old Universal monster movies. And I think it's important to have those gateways that bring, the younger audience into it that isn't too intense for a younger child. I think that's something that's kind of getting lost, more and more in the modern landscape of things, like we did a movie the one night, what was it, Aliens or Kids versus Aliens, and that could have been a great gateway horror for kids, but it was just like so vulgar. There wasn't any gore or anything, but they were just dropping F-bombs all the way. And it's like,
and then some of the movies that are on Severin Kids, like Peanut Butter Solution, it says so wild, wacky, a magical peanut butter grows. Bad guys taking the Harry's harvesting. I mean, that's scary. Like, well, that's weird. Like, nobody wants to be bald like when they're younger.
I vaguely remember that one.
Yeah.
That movie fucked me up as a kid.
And then like a really weird scene of the pubic hair growing out. The kids got the huge. I mean, like, this is wild. Like, so now like we'd be so worried about that, but we wouldn't be worried about dressing up our little kid like Chucky and having fake blood around him and walking around a convention, right? But we're worried about some long pubic hair, right? Like, so it's just a weird type of what people find offensive. I'd rather have some kid dressed up in a peanut butter solution costume, bald with peanut butter on his head, than the kid walking around a Chucky with a knife. I like Chucky. That stuff's cool, but
Yeah. But speaking of
maybe that's a goal. Have somebody cosplay somebody from a Severin Kids movie. That's my next goal.
That would be awesome.
But the peanut butter solution is amazing. Carnival Magic, I love. And When the Wind Blows, holy mackerel, that will crush your soul. But it's a beautiful animated film, and all of these movies are very unique. My grandfather's a vampire. It's funny, it's hilarious, and I remember I made a meme out of the grandpa's face, and it said about watching Skinamarink being exhausting, and this is what happens to you. But each one of these films is so unique and so different, but they still fall into that title because it's not really extreme enough to be a Severin movie, but more of a, like Chris was saying, a gateway into that darker, into that more extreme film. And I really do appreciate that. Carnival Magic, Peanut Butter Solution, all these movies are great. And, I'm a huge fan of everything that Severin's doing. And we are very happy to be fans of Severin and to be friends of you, having you be a Midwest warrior, a warrior out in the streets for Severin and seeing you
Thank
at
you.
all these events,
Thank you.
doing your thing, and it's definitely a friendly face to see at conventions, at pop-ups, and screenings. The January Jalo, man, I'd never heard of Closed Circuit.
Yeah.
Do you know if Severin will be putting that one out? Because that wasn't really a horror movie, wasn't really a giallo, but it was such an amazing film.
So yeah, Closed Circuit we have put it out on Blu-ray. So it's available. Will is amazing when it comes to some of the programming that he does at the Music Box. And those were like, he said, "You want to get involved in that?" I said, "Heck yeah, that's everything I love." Like, yes, of course, let's definitely do it. I can come up and watch a movie. I can sell movies. I can see Germ stop by, and he can come on in and come through. So yeah, those were very successful for everybody involved. And we had Sergio Martino who came through for 2 days. We had an extra day so we could show the Strange Bites of Mrs. Worth. And then I got to take him out to dinner, and Gary Sherman showed up. So it was like pretty cool. Like, wow, this is my life right now. Like, this is pretty nice. Yeah, this is neat. For sure. Thank you for promoting Severin Kids. I think that Severin Kids is definitely something that, without people understanding the niche of it, could just like end up just kind of going away. But I've tried to, anytime we're screening and there's a kids movie, see if they'll show Severin Kids trailers for movies. And usually the response is great. They crack up laughing, or the parents will be like, "Wow, that's a crazy movie. I need to get that." And I'll say, "I have it right here, $25. Like, it's right here." And then we have like coloring contests. We've done some Severin Kids events and coloring contests and trick or treating. And we went to a Native American reservation and we showed Al Adamson's Lost, which is one of his family films. And we did a skateboarding event out there. So, to me, that's great. I love that stuff. The aspect of the Severin Kids things. And then the movies themselves, like the titles that you were mentioning, definitely can open kids' minds that may have think a little different or a little darker, or, a little bit off. So,
is there anything on the horizon you could talk about that maybe that's coming out, or we should keep an eye out, or anything that you can?
Yeah, so
or is that all top secret?
No, I mean it is top secret because people online are can be a little bit needy and wanty, but I get that. But I don't, because it never was me. Like, we had to order movies through people we knew, or send money away and hope they'd come to us. So now it's like it's entitlement now. But it's customer service. So if we do announce anything before like kind of like a good street date, we plan it out now, and then we do plan out announcements and teasers and things like that. It's worked a lot better in our favor. But yeah, the Clones of Bruce Lee is still hitting the film circuit. But when that is done, there's going to be the box sets. I think one of two, maybe more, is going to be out as soon as possible, jam-packed with Bruceploitation movies.
Nice.
Those of you who don't know Bruce Lee, when he died real young, still in the heyday of Kung Fu movies, karate movies. So anybody who looked like Bruce Lee, they would exploit and say he was Bruce Lee. And some of them would say, "Well, I don't want to be Bruce Lee. I want to be somebody else." So it was Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee. I mean, so a lot of that we remember from getting when we were younger, karate movies, because we'd see some pretty kick butt karate movies, so we'd always want to be interested in it and say, "That's not Bruce Lee. That's definitely not Bruce Lee." And I guess it was really big in the United Kingdom, especially kind of a genre cultural thing that kind of went along with the horror movies, was also getting the Kung Fu movies as well. Similar to how heavy metal and wrestling scene kind of go together sometimes, or the punk scene and skateboarding kind of goes together sometimes. So it was like the Kung Fu heads and the Gore hounds still wanted all the same movies. So yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be great. And then a Danza Macabre set 3, so Smart Italian Cinema. So
Very, very cool. Well, thank you very much, Matt Harding, for spending time with us, taking time out of your busy day, talking with us here at Real Vile and discussing all things Severin and Severin Kids. Unfortunately, we didn't have much time to talk about Intervision, but we are all fans of Intervision as well.
Yes, yeah. We did a little bit because Burning Moon is on Intervision. So Intervision is the like sister label. It's still Severin, but it's all shot on video stuff. So yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm sure we will have you on again. Hey, Ruthless Chris, Killer Kelly, did you have any other questions or comments you'd like to make to Monster Matt before we let him go?
Other than Saturday, do you have any other, what are some upcoming events that you'll be at soon? That, I don't know, maybe people can...
Yeah, so Saturday I'm coming to see you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not me. That's you guys. So I'm coming to see you guys work. I'm going to be a fan for sure, front row all the time, having a good time. I am doing some stuff on Saturday where like I have to sort some stuff out for upcoming conventions. So I have friends who work in the city. Raph is an amazing buddy of mine. He does a lot of stuff too for us. So I got to go pick up stuff from him. Then I got to take some stuff to Will because Will's going to do another thing. So we've got a Jess Franco tour planned in April. We're getting Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon. We're trying to get 5 theaters, I think. 7 Severin movies, all Jess Franco movies shown. We're going to do a pop-up in a couple of record stores out there. Don't know all the details, but everything that you want to know about upcoming events for Severin is there's an events page on severinfilms.com. So that has all that as well. Gonna get Cemetery Man showing up in the city sometime in May. Yeah.
Nice.
So that'll be gnarly. I got Horror Home next month, 22nd through the 24th. My buddy Jake, who also loves wrestling, he's always with me. He's gonna be at Days of the Dead that weekend. So I mean, there's some conventions and some stuff that we're throwing around. So it's usually almost every weekend I try and do something Severin related.
From a personal standpoint here, I just want to let everyone know, anyone that came to King of the Kill, this is who was responsible for the midnight movie marathon we did. So if you left with some cool swag or some DVDs or Blu-rays, that was this man right here that helped us out with that. So we thank you greatly for that. People had a real fun time with that. I
was sold at deathmatch wrestling and movies played at midnight outside. And I said, well, yeah. Yes, please.
We started at midnight and we went to sunup.
And Mutilation Massacre got us showing. I was seeing some of the comments too. People were like, so yeah, that was a movie. We watched that when it was dark. But still, that's the fun part of it, is that you get that out there and you get that. That's an Intervision title, by the way, Jerem. And wrestling, it's great wrestling. I think there's a special feature on that disc with Mean Gene doing some interviews or something. So, that's awesome.
Yep. I remember I bought that one from you. Actually, you had recommended it, and there's several movies over the years that I had no idea what they were about, and you suggested them, and I bought them. So I'm glad that we're friends. So we're all friends here, and it's been great talking to you, Matt. And I'm excited to see you in a couple days.
Awesome.
Ruthless Pro Wrestling's Animosity. It's going to be a great time. Do you have any other final words to the folks out there in Real Vile Land before we let you go?
Thank you for having me on. This is a great platform for people who like to listen to horror and things that are neat and obscure. So you guys are doing a fantastic job. I appreciate it, and finding my life interesting, and I definitely find all your lives interesting. So much appreciation, much love, and much respect.
Well, once again, thank you very much for giving us the time to be on our show. And Chris, Kelly, any final words for the people out there in Real Vile Land before we sign off?
Watch something sleazy.
Have a good night.
And I'm going to cap it off with keep it creepy, keep it spooky, God bless America, and send nudes.